Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I appreciate it. You are here for another case of butt hurt, aren't you? And guess what I have? I have some butt hurt powder for you. You're gonna need it every day. Every time I come on here, you're gonna need some butt hurt powder. That said, today I'm gonna butt hurt the left. Okay, I'm gonna butt hurt the minimum wagers, the people who want a living wage or a universal living wage or whatever it is you want to do with everybody else's money. That's who I'm gonna butt hurt today. So you hang on for just a minute and we're gonna muscle through this, okay?
You heard a while, but that's just what people do. The theory is you always find somebody new. I guess there was a time I believe that was true, but now...
All right, so like I said, today I'm gonna hurt the minimum wages right in the butt. We are going to talk about exactly why minimum wage is just a stupid idea. Yeah, it's a stupid idea. I know it feels so good to force rich people to pay poor people a living minimum wage in order to get, all the things they need, regardless of their value, okay? Oh, no, don't start with that, but everybody has value. Yes, everybody has a certain level of value. That level of value is decided by that person. And when I say value, I'm not talking about human value. I'm talking about financial value. You are worth whatever you bring to the table. So if you are not willing to work hard and if you are not willing to do your job and show up on time and put a little effort into it, then your value is less than someone who is willing to do all those things. Am I wrong? So you argue that, well, the guy who's not willing to do anything to make himself valuable should be given at least enough to live on. In and of itself, that sounds so absurd that I have a hard time even getting it out of my mouth. I mean, really? So somebody who's not willing to put any effort into anything deserves income. Look, here's the thing you need to understand. There's a lot of people on the left who like to say, well, we need to figure out what we have to do with our economy, what in our economy causes poverty, what causes people to be poor. Being born causes you to be poor. Poverty and homelessness are a natural state of mammalian life, right? Every mammal is born poor and homeless. And what happens from that point on is up to them, is up to that mammal. Now, as humans, we've created a society and we've learned to, even in some of the animal kingdom, well, I will work on enough wealth that my child will be born into my wealth. But it didn't start that way. If I don't have it, it's not there for my kids or yours. So there's nothing in the economy that causes poverty. Poverty is the starting point of all things. It's what you do from there. So what you should be asking is, what can we do to the economy to get people wealthy, right? And that's where you step in and say, well, we can take money from the wealthy and give it to the poor so that they're born into wealth. Okay, there's a lot of problems with that. And again, we're going to focus less on all the other social welfare and more on minimum wage itself. So you're telling me that what you need to do is force companies to pay a higher amount of labor for all their employees. Well, there are both, philosophical and practical problems with that, okay? Philosophically, what you're saying is that the fat guy who got the beautiful girl because he's rich is not allowed to get girls with his wealth anymore. So now he has to compete with the attractive guys on looks alone. You've taken away his only value. Now he can't get the pretty girl because you're not allowed to use your wealth to get pretty girls. So now only the who are you helping? Are you actually helping anybody? I guess you're helping the attractive guys, but no, you're not. You're not leveling the playing field. You're de-leveling the playing field. You see, the ability to pay somebody less helps that individual level the playing field. And I'll give you my example, right? You don't know it because you see me here, but in life, I'm in a wheelchair. Now, I can walk for short steps and all this stuff. I can get around on my feet a little bit, but throughout the day, I cannot. I'm pretty much, chair-ridden or wheelchair-ridden. So I'm in a wheelchair. I have a neuropathic disease that causes me to drop things, to fall over, to have problems on and off throughout the day. So if I go to a company, let's say Walmart. If I go to Walmart and I say, hey, I need a job, can you guys hook me up? They say, well, can you provide us with $15 an hour worth of service? Well, I can sit in a wheelchair and greet people. Is that worth $15 an hour to you? Well, it would be if you could help, every once in a while help carry things back and forth and stock shelves and help customers and deal with money and all those things. Well, I can't. But my friend over here is perfectly healthy and not very smart, can. So now, by raising minimum wage to $15 an hour, you haven't leveled the playing field. You have actually taken me off of the playing field. Now I am not worth $15 an hour to anybody. So I'm not worth anything. Now, if I were to go to Walmart and say, hey, listen, I can't do anything but greet people, and since I have zero income, no way of making money, I'm willing to work for $3 an hour just sitting in my wheelchair, smiling at everybody who walks in and greeting them. Is that worth it to you? Well, yeah, that's way better than $15 an hour. Now, nobody's going to go in there and stock shelves for $3 an hour, and I wouldn't blame them. But, would it be fair for me to go into Walmart at the minimum wage of $15 an hour and do nothing in my wheelchair all day while the people who are not in a wheelchair are forced to do the rest of the duties? Would that be fair? So have you leveled the playing field by forcing me to make what those people are making? No, no, you've created dissent. Now you've got a whole bunch of $15 an hour workers who see me sitting in my chair doing nothing and are like, well, he doesn't have to work, so what do I? Right? Because that's exactly what happens. And if you think it's not, well, you're just plain stupid and you shouldn't be able to earn $15 an hour either. Because if you're that dumb, you don't deserve it. So that's the problem. Minimum wage does not help unemployment. It makes it worse. It takes away my chance of making any wage. Now I have to find a way to make myself worth $15 an hour to a company, and I just am not. I have too many medical issues. Oh, well, that's what disability is for. Well, I haven't gotten it. You know why? Because it takes an act of freaking Congress to get it. And even though I spent the first 30 years of my life paying into it, rather than being able to save that money up, I've been giving it to the government. Well, now that I need it back, guess what happens? I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. I get screwed out of all the money I put in and can't get a job for $2 or $3 an hour because of you and your stupid minimum wage laws. It's your fault that I have nothing. It's your fault that if not for the charity of my friends, I would be completely homeless. Anybody who thinks minimum wage is a good idea has screwed me, has screwed me to the core, has made my life miserable. Thank you, minimum wagers. You did great. You're so altruistic. Look at you, benevolent. Oh, you made everything so much better. You screwed me. And you screwed millions like me. Millions of people who, well, maybe they're not in a wheelchair. Maybe they are just dumb or just lazy. Maybe there's just some reason they're not worth $15 an hour to anybody. Whatever. They could be worth a little less than that, but they're not because you won't let them get paid less than that. You want to know why we have illegal immigrants? Because you and your stupid minimum wage laws. If we could hire Americans at $4 or $5 an hour, we wouldn't be hiring people who don't speak our language at $4 or $5 an hour, right? You created this atmosphere with your ridiculous laws. So that is the philosophical side of it. I mean, I understand there's some practicality to that, but the reality is that it's philosophical. It's the whole idea that you have made my life miserable by making my value, unattainable. So what else happens with minimum wage? Well, here's the part you probably didn't think about. So let's say they raise minimum wage today to $15 an hour across all the states in the U.S., okay? So let's say they do that. Now, what happens to the guy who was making $10 2 years ago when he started and has worked hard and done everything right and gotten raises and is now making $14 an hour? And now you've raised minimum wage, and the guy who's never done the job in his life and doesn't even know how to do it, who has no education, no experience, nothing, is walking in making $1 more an hour than the guy who was making $14 an hour. What do you do with him? Oh, you raise him up. To what? To $15 an hour? To the same thing as the entry-level guy? So now you're punishing him. You're saying that, look, you were making more than the new guys, but now you're going to make less than the new guys, or the same as the new guys. And that's all. Everything you thought you had earned with merit is getting flushed down the toilet because people voted for a higher minimum wage. And guess what? Because they voted for that higher minimum wage, you don't have, you're at the lowest value again. You're the entry-level customer. Well, yeah, but it's 15. It's more than he was making. We'll get to that, okay? So you take that problem. Now you have your $14 an hour guy who had worked his way from 10 to 14. That's a significant raise, right? So now he, I think, deserves the same percentage of a raise that he got before. Does he not? Does he deserve, what, $16 an hour? Does he deserve just $1 more than the guys who were just starting after having worked up to, 3 or 4 raises to where he was? No, I don't think so. I don't think you think so either. I hope you don't think so. But you might be thinking, well, yeah, but he's making more than he was. We'll get to that. So that guy has to get paid more. So let's say he gets moved up to, well, just $17 an hour, right? So then you have the other guy in the same company who had, started a little bit sooner than that fellow and had worked harder and done more and had gotten up to $17 an hour. Well, now the guy who had done more work and who had put in greater effort is getting paid the same guy who did less, or paid as the same guy who did less work with less effort. Same level. Now, is that fair to him? Well, of course not. Of course it's not fair to him. So we'll give him a raise too, right? So we've raised his income. Okay, so we've raised him up to $18 an hour. So now instead of just making, the 17 that he was making before, he's making 18, the next guy's making 16, and the entry-level dude's making 15. Well, what about the guy who was making $18 an hour, who had done the same thing, who had worked his way up? Is now he gonna have to accept it? Of course not. So you gotta give him a raise. So what happens, inevitably, in this minimum wage increase is that everybody in the company has to get a raise too, or there will be chaos, or everybody's gonna be like, well, what the hell? I'm only making all I have to do is sit back and wait for them to vote my increase in pay, and whether I work hard or not, I'll get it. So screw everybody. Is that what's gonna happen? Yeah, it is. You know how I know this? Because I witnessed it. I witnessed it at Busch Gardens when I worked there. In the 90s, 80s, 90s, long time ago. I watched what happened when minimum wage outpaced my income, when all the supervisors were suddenly training people who were making more than them. And I watched the descent, and I watched them flip a lot of employees real fast. A lot of people quit because they were given 100 days to give that raise, which meant that, the raise had gone up to, I want to say, $4.25 or $4.10 an hour. And $4.25, and I had worked my way up to $4.10 as a training supervisor. And so, now I'm making less than the guys I'm training. You think that didn't anger me? You think that when they were like, don't worry, in 100 days, we'll raise you up to what entry-level guys are going to make? You think that didn't anger me and the 3,000 other employees who were, getting paid more than the original minimum wage, but less than the higher one? You think that didn't anger all 3,000 of us? You're wrong. And you know what happened? The price to get into Busch Gardens, because employees cost so much more, skyrocketed. So it more than doubled the price to get into Busch Gardens. Well, now we can't even afford to go to the park we work at because the income we make doesn't even cover the price of a ticket. Boy, that sucked. So, and that's the other side of that. Oh, you're making more money, you should be happy either way. Okay, but the problem is when everybody is making more, who's paying that? Where do you think that cost is coming from? Do you think the employers are going to just stop making what they make? They're going to, everybody has built their lifestyle, and everybody's income depends, or their lifestyle depends on their income. So if you're making $100,000 a year, then your lifestyle will revolve around that $100,000 a year income. That's just how it is. And that's fair. It's not fair. Oh, you shouldn't spend that much. It's not up to you. You don't get to decide what other people spend, because I could do the same thing to you. Since I have no income, I could just scorn you for going to the movies because I can't afford to. It's not fair that I cannot afford to go to a movie theater when you can go every other weekend. Even though you're just lower middle class, I'm even lower than that. I have less than you. It's not fair that you are doing things. It's not fair that you get to go out drinking on a Friday night because I can't afford to. So you shouldn't be able to either. That's your mentality toward people who are better off than you are. I'm not that way about you. I don't care. I want you to go out and party. I want you to celebrate the fruits of your labor, and you should. But to tell people that, well, it's not fair that, this guy in the wheelchair has less than that guy who actually works for a living, so the guy in the wheelchair should be able to take something from the guy who works for a living. That's stupid. That is stupid. You people need to get your heads out of your rectums. It's disgusting to me. It's horrible that you are so evil. I mean, that is evil. There's no altruism there. You're not saying, oh, I'm helping you. You're screwing me and you're screwing everybody else who needs to find a way to make a living. Look, hire me. Let me work for you for $3 an hour. I guarantee you in 5 years, I will be making more than a lot of your employees. Why? Because I have work ethic. I work when I can, what I can. I do what I can. I don't just sit back and watch. I want to be part of everything, which is why I'm here, because I can't do anything else. So, you are now seeing that by the time you have raised everybody's income in the whole U.S., the cost, the minimum cost of anything being done has to go up. And all of the costs on top of that have to go up. So have you really raised income? No. All you have done is change the actual digits in the value scale. That's all you are doing. So you're not actually giving anybody more income. If raising minimum wage helped, then why is it that when I was a kid and it was $2.85 and it's now, I think in Florida, 10? I don't know. So now it's literally 3 to 4 times more. Why aren't the poorest people 3 to 4 times more wealthy than they were when I started working? Why is that? Why is it that raising minimum wage hasn't ever worked? It has never gotten anybody out of poverty, ever. Okay? You show me where I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. It's provable. Raising minimum wage just raises inflation. It just raises the cost of everything. So you're not actually helping anybody. You're just screwing people. Thanks. Love you. Ugh. All right, guys. You want some? You need it now? Is your butt hurting? I figured it would be. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I love you. I'm sorry I was beating that dead donkey, but whatever. You guys take care.